Welcome back to my channel. Finally getting started on December Daily 2025. I'm really excited about this year, even though I'm getting a slow start. I don't normally get a lot done in December anyway, so for me, it's kind of normal. Um, I'll show you what I've got started so far, and then we'll move into a couple of process videos. So today will be stories 1 through 5, which are all November stories. I don't do a story per day necessarily in December. I do 25 stories overall, and we do a lot of things in November related to Christmas. So I always start there anyway. So I loved this idea of kind of doing like a part one, part two, where it's November stories and then December stories. So for now, I have not done my reason why or my title page. This will more than likely be a shaker with this transparency and the prompt paper. We normally have family photos done by now, and we do not. So once I have that, I'll figure out exactly what I want to do. Normally, my title page would have my family photo in behind. I almost always start with a wreath in my albums. I just love the way it looks. So this is going to be perfect for that. So that'll be that. And then I do plan to use the index page. Probably going to use sticker paper with different fonts around the page, but may decide in the end just to write it in. Not sure. We'll see where that goes. The rest is pretty bare. Uh, for stories 1 through 4 will be the November story page like Ali had done. Um, I do not have the physical cards, so I will be printing those on my laser printer and foiling them with my Mink. And I have an idea. I think the physical cards are letter pressed, so I want to add some dimension to mine somehow so that they're not so flat. So I have an idea for that. And as well as I'm going to add some foil to the wreath page as well. But yeah, that'll come later in the video. I'll show you how to do that. And then I have story 5 planned, and that'll be in this video. And then the only other thing I have done is this 8. It's my husband's birthday on the 8th of December, so I always include his birthday page in my album. So I made this vellum shaker. Linda Jordan from Linda Loves Creating had done this, I believe, in her 2021 album, where it's just a vellum number and blanket stitched around with shaker bits on the inside. So I chose a fairly small flat glitter. Most of them are fairly large, which is perfect, but I also have all these little tiny bits in there. So just be mindful if you're using something tiny. I didn't put glue around the outside, but if you're using something small like that, you should, so that it doesn't shake out. But I'm going to remedy that by shaking it over a garbage can here at some point so that I don't have glitter everywhere through my room. The back side of this is plain. The front side, before I cut it out on my silhouette, I took the digital of the birthday pattern paper from the birthday story kit and used the birthday words that were on that, changed them to the yellow gold that's in the kit, and printed that out to be able to cut my 8 on so that it says birthday. And then I know that I'm going to use this page for my story 9, with hopefully some pictures and words. I'm considering doing a flip up, probably as a book, I'm thinking, but I may also cover this in this season. I'm not sure yet. I just know that I want to use this for story 9. And then I plan to use this. This may become my reason why page, but I haven't decided, but I do want to use this somehow this year. I did consider using it the way Allie did with the Dear December for our Santa letters, and that may be what I do if I don't use it for the reason why. Otherwise, I'll just use this as is for my son's Santa letter. And then the other thing I have done is the page that Allie had done with the Be Merry. I'm loving this page so much. This one is essentially done for me. I'm probably not going to add too much more to the front other than a number and some stars along the side. The plan is right now to use this as a movie page of the movies we watched, or we haven't watched a whole lot of movies yet. So I may just use it as a checklist of sorts. So movies that are like our favorite movies that we've watched in the past, plus new movies that are out this year, and do a little rating system beside each one, or just a check mark watched, didn't watch, not interested, something like that beside each one. And then also include some journaling, obviously, and a few pictures of us watching movies or cuddled on the couch with the dogs or our snacks, things like that. Anything that we do surrounding movies, because there's tons of space in here. So I want to fill it up um, as much as I can. But yeah, love this page. I think it'll work perfect for movies. So that's all that's in my album so far. So we'll move into the process for some of them. All right, so the first thing I did was print my cards onto just cardstock and with a toner laser printer. The Mink machine is what I'm using. The foil is a toner reactive foil. So I'm using the Heidi Swap one today, that's who the Mink is made by as well as Heidi Swap, in the 8.5-inch size. And then I'm just showing you, I made cutting lines on my design. So I know where to exactly to cut the cards, but any exposed toner will transfer to your carrier sheet. So I just use a piece of copy paper over top of any exposed toner so that it doesn't copy. Here I'm just pulling out my Spellbinders mat and ruler. It's made for the Glimmer machine, specifically for cutting foil. I like it. I like to have a nice straight edge on my foils when I'm using them. So here I'm just pulling that out. I also use that little pizza cutter looking cutter over there for my foil. I find it works nicely. I don't have to fiddle around. You can just use scissors. It doesn't really matter. Whatever you prefer and whatever you have on hand. I cut my foil upside down like this. It doesn't really matter. I just find it lays better this way. You can cut it whichever way you prefer. So I'm just going to slice into that. And then because the ruler isn't quite long enough, I just snip off the ends. No big deal. And then this next part, I won't be using the ruler. I'm just gonna, like I said, eyeball it. I just want to cover those numbers. Do make sure that the foil that you cut is wide enough and covers your whole design, anything that you want to be foiled, because obviously it's only going to foil where it is. I should have put my paper in the carrier sheet first before I put this on. You'll see why here in a sec. Um, you want the pretty side of the foil to be facing up, in this case, the gold. You can tape it down. These are two heat resistant tapes. The blue one is a Cricut tape. The teal one is with for the foil quill. Both work nicely if you want to tape down your images. These ones are small. I'm pretty confident I can get those in there without them moving around. So I'm not going to bother to tape them. But this is why I should have done it in the carrier sheet, because when I put them in, they kind of roll up. This is where tape would have come in handy. That wouldn't have moved, obviously, but this one's super easy to fix. So, and then I'll just be putting the copy paper on so it doesn't transfer. I use my Make machine for mixed media projects as well. In some cases, when I pull it down over top of the sheet, you can probably see I've got paint on there, there's toner, all kinds of stuff. But um, so that's how I remedy that. I don't want any of that toner or any of the paint to transfer to my actual design. So I just put copy paper down on the spaces I want to protect. You'll see here the lines that transferred to the paper from the design. That's extra toner that's not covered by the foil. If I had not put the copy paper there, it would have transferred to my carrier sheet, which then would transfer to a design if I didn't put that there. And here's the peel and reveal. Turned out nice. And I will keep those extra bits to use at another time. They're still good to use. But this is how it turns out. So you can see how it's nice and shiny now. They turned out beautifully. So now all I need to do is cut them down to size and I'll have my 4x6 cards. So I took a stylus, an old school stylus. This one has two ends. One is fairly small, the other is a little larger. I do have bigger styluses than this, but this is a pretty good size. Um, it's about, I don't know, a 16th of an inch, I'd say. So all I'm gonna do, I have this little foam pad, and you're just gonna hold it upright and carefully go around the outside of your number, pushing with some pressure, but gentle pressure. It's better to do um, more than one swipe than it is to try and do one turn around, because you'll rip the paper if you go do it too much. So do one and then do a couple more, just light pressure, and it will make an indent. We used to do this old school times. We used to have all kinds of little metal stencils and things, and we would dry emboss, is what it was called. Now, a lot of companies are coming out with letterpress, like the Better Press from who makes it? So Spellbinders, yes, Spellbinders makes the Better Press. And this is what it does. It presses into the paper and makes some intricate designs, which is really pretty. But this is the old way of doing it. So then on this side, it's embossed, so it's raised bumps. But on this side, it's debossed. So this is what the letterpress does. So it would press into your paper. So this is the manual kind of way of doing it. And it does feel really cool and it adds some dimension. So I might do this. It does add a little bit to it. And the other thing you can do is go from the back side now and just go back over it light with some light pressure. You're just kind of training the paper essentially to bend at your will. This is just my test one. I have not done this yet. I just know that we used to do this. I don't know how it's gonna work with the foil, whether you'll be able to see all the lines I'm now making. I'm just gonna kind of go in little circles. This right here would be better if I had that bigger stylus, but I'm not sure where I put it. But I might look for it before I do the next one if I decide to do the next one. And here I didn't get it quite done very well, so I'm just gonna go over it again. And then what that does is raises that even more through there. And it so the edges are debossed really well, and then the middle kind of pops out and it gives it a lot of dimension. I doubt if you can see it on the video. Maybe. So the 2 is really flat, and then the 0 can kind of see how it catches the light. It's got some dimension to it. But yeah, it feels really nice. So yeah, if you wanted to add a little bit of texture to anything, that's how you would go about doing it. So I'll meet you back here when I'm putting it all together. Welcome back. So these are finished. I didn't record finishing up this page just because it's the same basic process that Ali Edwards had done for her November story. So this is what I chose to do with the wreath. I did the same chipboards with stitching across that she did and the French knots, but I also did some foiling on here in both red and gold. And how I did that was with this mink. It's by Heidi Swap, Reactive Mist. So it's just a shaker, like a spray bottle. So you can just spray it on and it will foil where you've sprayed. But what I did was take it out. I probably shouldn't do this over my album, but I took the nozzle out and just dabbed um, onto where I wanted the foil. It leaves, it will leave like just a little puddle, I guess. You can move it around to where you want it. I then took a paper towel and kind of dabbed it. I didn't want them, I don't know if you can see. Yeah, I guess you can. I wanted more like a distressed kind of feel on it. I didn't want it to be just a glob of solid foil. Like this one here is more solid. It didn't really dab that one too much. But yeah, I just dabbed a little bit here and there just to make it so that it was a little more distressed looking. You do need to let this dry. I let it dry overnight before putting it through your mink machine. But this is basically toner, is what's in here essentially, and it will foil wherever the mist is. Works really well. It there is a bit of a learning curve with it. If I had left like a big puddle here and it wasn't dried completely, and sometimes even when it is dry, it will spread out. So keep that in mind. Like if you want to keep it contained within a certain area, you don't need a whole lot of it. But anyway, that's how that page turned out. And then um, all of my little cards with their raised embossing. So I showed you first how I went around the outside of this, and I don't think I said in the video, I had then gone to the back and puffed them out essentially. You don't need to do that. If you want it to look more like letterpress, you would only do the outside. But I kind of like that raised, like super raised bits, and that's why I did the backside too. And then I just added the plastic stars like Ali did, and I had stitched along here to add this transparency to the side. I'm covering some faces of my coworkers, but these are just, this was when I received my box, just talked about, I'm in Canada, so we had some tariffs and some extra fees and things. So I just talked about that and how I put that behind me and moving on to some Mary and Joy instead. Um, and then this is our Christmas party at work. Literally the one and only photo I have. So I made it into that tiny little story instead of making it into a full story. Just a little bit about prep day. And then this one, 4 turns into this page. This one is about putting up the tree. We don't put decorations on our tree until after my husband's birthday. So, but I always like to have just the light. So this here, so I did this 6 3x4 page protector on this side to pair with this. This was one large photo that I masked into 4 3x4s. Um, just I wanted the dog to be nice and clear, and then up here was kind of a bokeh effect with my tree. And then this side, this picture up here, or part of the picture, is just my fireplace with my mirror. So it was kind of boring. So I decided to make it into a shaker pocket. So I took the photo, added this 3x4 transparency card that I had in my stash that says, "Oh, what fun." And then stitched 3 sides, put in my little shaker bits. They're little, I'm pretty sure you can tell. Yeah, you can. They're little, just little lights, and then stitch the top. I also, so before Before I did this, I forgot to add some anti-static powder to, the back of the transparency, so what I did instead was put my little bits in here, but before I did that, I just took my anti-static powder. I use this one. It has a little foam dauber, but any anti-static pouch will work. And I just dab my little container to add just a little bit of powder in here, put my little shaker bits in and swoosh them around a little bit in the powder, oops, before putting them in the pockets so that they don't have static in there, so they'll move freely. You can see, I don't know if I think the camera will pick it up. There's a few scratches and things. This card is fairly old, and you can see the powder right now on the inside. But once it shakes around a few times, like over time, that powder will eventually go away. You won't see it anymore. So that'll just stick in there and just be a little added little element in the page. So that's story 4. And for story 5, again, I don't have a I lost my footage for this. I did, but it's obviously pretty straightforward. Just the back of the 3 by 4 6 page protector. I just made a flip up for my journaling. I like to include um handwritten journaling in my albums, but I don't always want to see it. So I normally do a flip up for that. And I just use some washi tape. These page protectors are a little tall on the top, so I just did an extra little bit with the washi tape to make it so that the card would come flush with these ones. Otherwise, it just looked a little off to me if they weren't lined up. And then on this side, I just chose to do a full page photo and added a couple of bits from last year's kit and calling that done. We'll see you next time for the next few stories. Thanks for watching.